Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Black Ops Cold War in Depth. In today's episode, I want to talk about the flashlight attachment and why it's quite possibly the very best attachment in the game. Definitely one of my favorites because it allows you to see through these bushes on Cartel, and it massively boosts the visibility of enemies while having essentially no downsides. I mean, I'm serious. This is amazing. What's interesting about it is that the flashlight massively boosts enemy visibility well beyond the measurability that it was promised, so much so that I feel that it's a must-have attachment given how difficult it can be to spot enemies, and on top of that, it doesn't really seem to matter which one you use. They all apply the same effect to your character or to your weapon, so I just use the one that has no downsides. I think testing will highlight this better. Right now I'm using the base XM4 with no attachments, and as you can see, as I back away from Delta Change, eventually his red name disappears and he becomes much harder to spot. But let's see what happens when I use the basic flashlight on the same weapon versus the same person at the same range, and even hip fire. The further I'm at 45, almost 50 meters now, I can go all the way across this entire sight line on Metro, and Delta Change's red name will not disappear. Some of them will say that you need to ADS, but that's not really true. For example, the base XM4 has a very high reveal distance when you do aim down sights. I can see Delta all the way across the map. However, if I swap over to the one that has the flashlight on it, I can just hipfire scan him all the way across the map. To be fair, I need to be looking pretty much in that direction anyway, but it does let me know that enemies are out there. And this can be incredibly helpful in, say, satellite when enemies' heads are barely peeking over the dune. As long as you have that flashlight attachment on as you scan over them, they'll be pretty visible, which I think is incredibly helpful. And by the way, this applies to submachine guns as well, and every weapon that I tested it on, I can cross-map scan people with an MP5. But what is perhaps the most useful to me is the ability to see through the bushes on Cartel. So my AK-74U has nothing on it, but my MP5 does, and you'll notice that I can actually see Delta Change, whereas I couldn't with the AK-74U even when I'm looking in the same direction. When I'm in the bushes, what's really cool is that as I scan, I don't see anything with the 74U, but with the MP5 with the flashlight, I see the little red dot. It's a little bit subtle, it's a little bit hard to see, I admit, especially if you're colorblind like me, but as I scan the bushes, I can actually see red targets and red dots and little indicators that people are there as long as I'm using the flashlight on the MP5, and on this map, that is just insanely valuable. Of note, the light isn't really visible from the enemy perspective either. Delta's just on the other side of the door, and you can just barely see that light as I move through, so it's not like it's something that really reveals you or gives you away or really has any downsides. The enemies won't really notice you having the light or care for it. It's not going to give you away in a gunfight. So in conclusion, any flashlight attachment will allow for cross-map red names to be revealed on any weapon while hipfire. You don't even need to aim down sights. It also doesn't matter what kind of flashlight. A couple of them will say plus 20%, plus 60, I think it's plus 60% ADS, and but it doesn't matter. They all do the exact same thing. I have not found a range at which the flashlights do not work. Now in Fireteam Dirty Bomb and Warzone perhaps, but as far as base multiplayer goes, even the very basic flashlight will hipfire reveal people across the entire map. And it adds a little red dot above enemies' heads when they're in bushes, when they're in low visibility, which I think is incredibly helpful. Don't forget that you can also do this through smoke grenades and whatever if you're playing CWL, but realistically, most of you are going to be hunting bush Wookiees. I would recommend that a lot of you make at least one flashlight class for the Cartel map so that you can deal with that problem when it comes up. The light itself is barely noticeable by enemies. I would be hard-pressed to notice a light or for the light to give somebody away in a gunfight. I think it's just like not even worth considering the fact that enemies might see you. So in conclusion, the flashlight is one of the best attachments in the entire game because it fixes the visibility issues. Kind of like in the last episode, we were having hit detection issues and we were able to fix that with high velocity barrels. In the same kind of way, if you're having problems spotting enemies, if you're having problems with people in little head glitches and in bushes and stuff, then running the flashlight will completely alleviate that problem and make the game play like Call of Duty games in the past. And I think that provides immeasurable value. By the end of the week, I'll probably be a flashlight and high velocity barrel addict because those are the most important attachments. Running those on my SMGs or rifles have impacted my gameplay more than anything else, and I would highly recommend that you guys try out the flashlight because I think it's going to improve your gameplay a lot. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.